Good evening. Time being 7 o'clock, I call the January 3rd, 2024 meeting of the Franklin Town Council to order. Please pause for a moment of silence. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Announcements from the chair. All citizens are now welcome to attend public board and committee meetings in person. Meetings are live streamed by Franklin TV and shown on Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 29. In an effort to maximize citizen engagement opportunities, citizens will be able to continue to participate remotely via phone, or you may click the Zoom link that is on the posted agenda and on the town's website. The phone number is 929-205-6099 and enter the meeting ID, which is 841-1008-7557. Then you need to hit the pound sign. Once again, the meeting ID 841-1008-7557 pound. If residents are just interested in watching the meeting, it will also be live streamed by Franklin TV. Upcoming events on the tracks is an exhibit currently being displayed at the Franklin Historical Museum, constructed by Historical Commission member Scott Mason. The Franklin Historical Museum presents an HO scale model of 1932 Franklin, in addition to last year's model of the train station and coal house. This year's exciting addition recreates the Thompson Press Building and New Haven Locomotive Roundhouse further east down the tracks. The exhibit will be on display at Franklin Historical Museum Saturday from 10 to 1 and Sundays 1 to 4 through January 14th. Next item on the agenda, citizen comments. Citizens are welcome to express their views for up to 3 minutes on a matter that is not on the agenda. The council will not engage in a dialogue or comment on a matter raised during citizens' comments. The town council will give remarks appropriate consideration and may ask the town administrator to review the matter. Is there anyone in council chambers that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? Please come forward. Just your name and address, please.
Mark Minichelli, 31 Longfellow Drive in Franklin. First, I'd like to publicly thank the town administrators and town councilors for their prior work to establish Franklin's electric municipal aggregation program, which has saved Franklin ratepayers an estimated $11.5 million during the previous 3-year contract period. The new agreement negotiated by the town administrator's office should result in additional financial savings over the next 2 years for Franklin residents who choose to participate. As important as saving Franklin residents money is that these agreements support and encourage green, clean energy production and produce an associated renewable energy certificate, or REC, for every megawatt hour of renewable electricity generated. The REC is a financial instrument which has real value and can be traded, bought and sold among energy producers across the country. I've recently learned a bit more about our electrical grids and how these RECs work. We here in Franklin get our electric power from a large electrical grid which serves Northeast United States, known as ISO New England. This grid accepts electrons from power generators throughout the region. Those electrons then move to the nearest transmission station and then onto a consumer who doesn't know which generator produced a particular delivered electron. The REC provides a means of tracking and quantifying green electricity and can be traded both within and beyond the ISO New England grid. I also recently learned that Massachusetts Class 1 RECs are the most meaningful form of renewable energy certificate, since the Mass Class 1 REC requires the green energy source to be located in New England. The actual electrons generated are then used by consumers in New England. Locally generating green energy is the only way to meaningfully reduce the carbon footprint of energy production in New England. Otherwise, we're only doing accounting here in New England for green energy made elsewhere, while our local power plants continue to pump CO2 into our New England atmosphere. Green Energy Consumers Alliance tracks the progress of green municipal aggregation throughout Massachusetts. Of 351 municipalities in Massachusetts, only 54 municipalities have agreements which offer substantial use of Class 1 RECs. Unfortunately, Franklin is one of the municipalities with zero Class 1 renewable energy content. I do not like seeing Franklin as a lagging community on their map. I strongly urge the Franklin Town administrators and Franklin Town Council to begin planning for our next green municipal aggregation plan to include Class 1 RECs to help meet the higher Massachusetts renewable portfolio standard requirements and to actually clean our air. There are several local organizations, such as 350 Mass and Energize Franklin, who stand ready to help the town achieve more meaningful energy cost savings and CO2 reduction. Thank you.
Thank you. There's somebody who did his homework. He was right on 3 minutes.
7 seconds left, sir. Great job.
Nice job. Okay.
Took 3 months.
I hope you heard it.
Okay, next item on the, oh, I'm sorry. Is there anyone else in council chambers that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? Please come forward. Just name and address, please.
Francis Olson, currently 37 Fraser Road, Framingham, Mass., longtime resident of Franklin at 149 West Central Street. Good to see everybody. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the council and the administrator's time. I would like to just simply say I've enjoyed living in Franklin for the majority of my life. At this point in my life, I'm not able to do so. Many of my friends and peers are not able to do so due to a lack of housing that is available to us. We do not have the ability to, on incomes that you expect for individuals of my age, we cannot live in the town. And we love this town and would love to move back here. When considering where I was going to live for this year, we looked into living in Franklin, and it was not an option for us on moderate income. And I would love to see additional work done by the council and by the administrator to make this available. Whatever that happens to be, we will be very happy with it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I appreciate your time, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
Well said, Francis.
Is there anyone else in council chambers that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? Is there anyone out in Zoom land that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda?
Ruth Ann.
Ruth Ann.
Hey guys, I sound terrible. That's why I'm not there in person. I'm pretty sick. So, Roseanne O'Sullivan, 175 Oak Street. I have my One Franklin cap on today. Just wanted to kind of give an update on the efforts that One Franklin's involved with the override. We have a big public kickoff meeting coming up this next Thursday. Actually, not this Thursday, next Thursday, January 11th. It's going to be at 67 Degrees Brewery right here in Franklin. It'll be from 6 to 9 p.m. And the whole leadership team of One Franklin will be there to kind of answer questions. We have some signs to give out and things like that. I know I've spoken to, a handful of you, and that we'll have some elected leaders there to answer questions. So I just wanted to make sure that the public knew that. And then I just just because it was just mentioned, I'd love to kind of plug the idea that this year, obviously, people know where I stand with the override discussion. I think that the override wouldn't maybe be as necessary or need to be as big of a number if we could try to progress a bit more with, things like zoning, things like planning. I think that without new growth, obviously, we all know it's not good for our town services. And so, anything I can do to kind of let you know that the One Franklin Group definitely supports, things like accessory dwellings becoming more readily available for people to kind of help our town with new growth. So that's all I've got. But January 11th, 6 to 9, everybody's more than welcome. Lots of good people, lots of good conversations. So thanks.
Thank you, Ruth Ann. Feel better. Is there anyone else in Zoom land that would like to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda?
Nope.
I don't see anybody. Do you, Jamie? Okay, moving on. Approval of minutes, we have none this evening. Proclamations and recognitions, we have none. Appointments, we have none. We do have a public hearing. And time being after 7 o'clock, yeah. I would declare a public hearing open on new Section 12 restaurant, common victular, all alcohol license and approval of Lisa Ann Truax as the manager. L. Truax King Street Cafe Incorporated, doing business as King Street Cafe, located at 390 King Street. Rich, do you want to come up? Jamie, you want to do a lead?
Sure, through you, Mr. Chairman. So this is for a new Section 12 restaurant all alcohol license, which is a full license to be consumed on the premises. A couple of quick points. One, all the department heads did sign off on this new application. And two, a lot of people are probably going to be asking, wait a minute, didn't they already have a license? Yes, they did. But it was lapsed, I think, last year. And one good news is for the applicant is because the site already has hosted an alcohol license in the past, makes the process a lot smoother at the ABCC, at the state level. So I know Mr. Cornett is here representing the family tonight and probably has a few words to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, council members. Happy New Year. Richard Cornetta, for the record, representing Ms. Truax. I'd like to introduce Lisa Truax. She is in the audience here tonight. Lisa took over the King Street Cafe last year, the middle of last year. For those of you who are unfamiliar with it, it is located at 390 King Street. It is primarily a breakfast and lunch location. And so you might ask, well, why a liquor license? Well, in the past, they had a pretty robust brunch business on Sundays, and a lot of the feedback that Lisa had received was very positive to pursue the liquor license. And Lisa's also no immediate plans, but she's contemplating maybe expanding her service to dinner, which would fall in line with the request for the license. The location, again, 3,400 square feet. It is 390 King Street. It's all interior. There is no outside patio or outside seating to contend with. She has about 40 employees. Her hours of operation are typically 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., which seems to work for that particular neighborhood. As Jamie had mentioned, there was a liquor license there in the past. And Lisa, her resume, I included with your full application materials. Lisa, I don't want to date you, but she's got quite an extensive experience, about 40 years in the hospitality industry. So Lisa knows how to deal with this type of business as well as handling the service of liquor. We're certainly happy to address any questions that you might have. We do have, you should have before you a complete application that would go on to the ABCC after tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich. Okay, since this is a public hearing, I'd go to the public first. Is there anyone in council chambers that has a question or comment about this license transaction? Is there anyone out there in Zoom land that has a question or a comment on this license transaction? Okay, seeing none, I'll go to the council. Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through you to Lisa, you guys are going to continue your menu, and hopefully these marinated steak tips that I enjoy so much are going to be there when you reopen again. To me, Mr. Chairman, and to Lisa, this is a logical step because simply put, A, they had a license before, B, nestled between the Chateau and now Sierra Pizza, who both also have beer and wine licenses. It's only logical that she also has it in order to keep up with the competition. But if you're gonna go to a night menu, my wife actually just said to me the other day, she says, are they really gonna start serving food at night? I says, I don't know, I'll find out, but hopefully they will. You guys, the restaurant's done well. I really look forward to the continuation of King Street Cafe. Quick question. I know it's kind of a silly question because I looked at your resume, but tip training?
Yeah.
Everyone who would be serving alcohol
Yes.
is just gonna be tip trained? Okay. Just want to verify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Questions or comments from any other councilor? Councilor Cormier Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just a comment to the ownership of King Street. Thank you very much on behalf of many of the youth sports in town that you sponsor and allow to stand out in front of your establishment asking for support. It means a lot. We don't get that from every business in town, so just kudos to you guys for that, as well as an exceptional menu all the time, as Councilor Jones has already pointed out, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Cormier Ledger. Any questions or comments from any other councilor? Seeing none, I will declare the public hearing on new Section 12 Restaurant Common Victualers All Alcoholic License and approval of Lisa Ann Truex as manager closed. Okay, so just so they don't have to stay here for a while, we'll go to license transactions, and we have a license transaction, new Section 12, Restaurant Common Victular All Alcohol License, approval of Lisa Ann Truax as the manager. Lisa Truax, King Street Cafe Incorporated, doing business as King Street Cafe, located at 390 King Street. Clerk will read the license transaction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a license transaction for New Common Victualers, 12 restaurant license all alcoholic beverages for El Truax King Street Cafe Incorporated, doing business as King Street Cafe, located at 390 King Street, Franklin, Mass. 02038. El Truax King Street Cafe Incorporated, DBA King Street Cafe, is seeking approval for new subsection 12 restaurant all alcoholic beverages license and to approve the manager, Lisa Ann Truax. All departments have signed off on this application, and this is a motion to approve the request of El Truax King Street Cafe Incorporated, DBA King Street Cafe, for a new Section 12 restaurant all alcoholic beverages license and approve Lisa Ann Truax as the manager.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. Good luck. Okay, moving on. Next item on the agenda is presentations and discussions. Discussion, one of our biannual 2024-2025 Town Council, Town Administrator Work Plan. Our goals for the next 2 years. Jamie, you want to kick it off?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So just for everybody watching at home, if you go online onto the website to tonight's meeting, you can see a draft agenda. On there is a list. If you want, I'm happy to go through them later on, or if you want to, Mr. Chairman. But just for everybody out there, we've broken it down as we have traditionally into a handful of different categories. And as you can see from this list, really falls into two buckets ultimately. Most of what's on this list are projects that are either currently financed but haven't been completed, or have been in the pipeline as part of our capital plan or facilities plan, and the design of the facility or the project is there, in addition to a whole series of other projects that we were unable to get to last session, such as the flag policy and a handful of others. And then also a few new ones that are, for all intents and purposes, like unfunded mandates from the state or new legal ramifications and compliance things that we have to deal with. And so we added those onto the goals. I would also state that I know the master plan committee is about halfway through their master planning process. If you'll notice on here, there are several goals that are outlined, and they're intentionally put out there awaiting the master plan to be completed, so that we don't hopefully undermine what the prioritization is from the master plan committee. Notably, I would note issues revolving around sustainability, also zoning, and I've mentioned before on some issues revolving around housing. Just want to make sure to clear to the council and folks at home, there's nothing that prohibits anybody or prohibits the council or anyone from doing anything outside of the master plan. But I think at the same time, I know those subcommittees and those committees, as part of the master plan, are in the process right now between probably this month, probably September and October in the fall, are going to hopefully prioritize, all of the goals that are being brought through the master planning process. So that's kind of it as a background, Mr. Chairman. Again, I'm happy to, if folks want, I'm happy to read through them for the record, or if folks have questions on them, I'm happy to answer them. And after, hopefully tonight, we'll have a 2-year work plan that we can start to focus on. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. Okay, we've all had an opportunity to read through these. A lot of them are very familiar, obviously, to us. So I think what I'd like to do first is just kind of go around, give everybody an opportunity to make any comments or any additions or any add-ons that you'd like to make to this goals. They are aggressive, but we were aggressive 2 years ago, and there's no reason to stop now. So, sorry, department heads and administration, but there isn't.
I'm saying they haven't quit yet, so we just keep putting it on.
Yeah, so we keep piling it on. Okay, so let's start down this end.
Patrick?
Patrick.
Or me?
No, let's start with Patrick.
So it's about strengthening the historical commission. Is that something we could add?
What does that mean?
Yeah,
Okay, so to give it more authority over the district.
So that's, through you, Mr. Chairman, so what Council Chair, I think, is referring to is the establishment of a historical district,
which we currently
which
do
the
not
Historical
have.
Commission,
Do not have.
the Historical Commission is distinctly different than a Historic District Commission.
Right.
A Historic District Commission, you have to establish and set up. Traditionally, and I'd also refer to the town attorney, not opposed to the concept. That's a pretty large lift, because you have to delineate an area of town. You have to, basically draw on a map where the property lines are, and then if you're included in the Historic District Commission, there's a set of guidelines and regulations you have to essentially accept or whatever about how you would do a renovation to your exterior of your house, a commercial property, Dean College, other stakeholder groups, churches. So if you want to establish a Historic District Commission, it's a fairly lengthy process, and you have to be very cognizant of the fact that you're putting in much more stringent regulations on what people can do to their personal property as well as the college or other commercial properties. Again, through you, Mr. Chairman, not opposed to the idea. I just want to make sure my job tonight is to establish expectations.
Right.
Just because if we're going to do that, I got to push back a little and just say we got to knock a couple of others off.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
And, so, I think there's something to be said that we could do in terms of engaging the Historical Commission to do some of that work. They have a new chair, so we could charge them with that, but it'd be it's a pretty big project. Thank you.
I'm just making a list of the things that come up, and then we can talk about them further. Anything else, Patrick?
Did I answer that well?
Thank you, Councilor Sheridan. Councilor Frangillo.
Yeah, thank you. So quite a list. And I
That's why I
think,
started over there.
Because we're going to add to it.
Yeah. I'll start with, I want to use these comments to talk about a high level, and then I have some specific language that I think we can add, and I'll look to you as to when the appropriate time is. From a high level, some things that it does really, really well. Two main things. One is talking about proactive budgeting and really improving that. That means economic development, right? We already had it mentioned that new growth is key to our ability to pay for services, and so this has measures around MBTA communities, around 40R, around home occupation businesses, around Franklin Crossing.
I'll bring the council meeting, the January 3rd, 2024 council meeting back to order. And again, if anybody was privy to what just transpired here at council chambers, I apologize on behalf of the council and the town. Some of these things you just don't have control over, and we do deeply apologize. Okay, Councilor Frangillo.
Yeah, thank you. I was talking about some things that I thought the list of goals did very well. The first of which was proactive budgeting, is what I was calling it, where we were talking about new growth, economic development. We had a whole bunch of goals related to that. We also mentioned discussion of the override and really talking about whether it's time to agree as a collective to raise revenue above 2.5% every year. And we also talked about how we prioritize infrastructure investments, which was worded, I thought, in a more productive way than ever before, which is really how do we systematically look at all infrastructure investments and make sure that we have a plan to pay for those things a long way into the future. Proactive budgeting, it does really well. It also does community building really well. It talks about branding and marketing. It talks about a flag policy where we have an opportunity to use symbols and some of the tools available to us to support different communities within Franklin. It talks about public art, and it talks about implementing the open space and recreation. All things that it does really well. Places that I find the list of goals falls somewhat short, many of which it has something on it, and I think that we need to do more. Housing being the main one. We know that this is the main thing that we hear, certainly from my peers, people my age, also the main thing that we hear at the senior center, seniors struggling to continue to afford to live in Franklin. We have a homeless and migrant crisis at our hands, all because of a lack of housing. And I think that there are some options to go a little bit further, and I'll talk about that language at a later time. Second is climate. I think I'm very proud of Franklin. I've listed them off before in a meeting. There are so many ways where we have been and continue to be a leader in both adapting to and mitigating the climate crisis. But all that we have here is...
I'm trying to mute it.
Yeah. Amber, if you're able to mute, perfect. All that we have here is to go after Green Communities grants, and to me this is not a time to rest on our laurels. 2 years ago, we added language about reaching net zero by 2050 as a community. That was the thing that achieved not only local attention, but statewide attention. I was walking through the halls of the State House. It had numerous people saying, I saw what Franklin did, how great it was that they committed to being climate leaders. Since then, we've only seen more and more people come out. It is the number one, if you talk to middle schoolers or high schoolers and their civics projects, without fail, they are talking about climate as their number one priority. We have Green Team has over the past few years been the most popular club. They just added a new Youth for Earth club. St. John's added elementary and middle schoolers, a group of climate activists. We had students take a day off to go participate in a climate lobby. We not only have the local node of 350 Mass, an advocacy group with enough local support that they're noticed here. They've continued to expand and launch Energize Franklin over the past few years. We know that there's more support than ever before, and I think that we have an opportunity to look further than just going after our Green Communities grant. So housing, climate, transportation, I really think that we need to be more proactive about talking about how people move and get around town as key to our accessibility, as key to our affordability, as key to mitigating traffic and some of the things that we don't currently love, and really improving vibrancy. I think we still fall short on downtown revitalization. I was disappointed to not see continued implementation of other Franklin for All goals, and have language to talk more about some of the other pieces that were in that Franklin for All study, which was a year-long intensive. We did that for a reason, and I'd like to see some of those continue to be worked on. And the last being citizen engagement. And I have some language, and I leave this last. Maybe this doesn't need to be included on the goals, but I think it's of note that we already had much room for improvement in how we interact with citizens, particularly through social media, particularly through our websites, but also in person and through other mediums. And we've only lost our only personnel that was specifically tasked with improving that. And so I don't want that to fall off the map, whether it includes whether it's included in our goals or not. So those are my 5: housing, climate, transportation, downtown revitalization, citizen engagement. I have more language to talk more thoroughly, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Councilor Hamblin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through the chair. I have a question for Jamie about the second goal of finance, the review annual financial, no, not that one, the Chapter 82 fees for service. I think we spoke about that at the last meeting. Would that also include abatements and discounts and things like that for people?
It would include the community assistance program, which we included some years ago. I'm losing track of the years now, but
Yeah.
the community assistance program, which spoke to the mattress issue.
Right.
We do have a lot of discounts in there. Councilor Pellegrini asked us some years ago to do a big flyer. We have
Right.
that. We
I
promote
remember
that.
that.
That would include that.
Okay.
I don't know about abatements because really we're just looking at section 82. But what I will do is ask Julie and the team when they are talking to each of the departments about this stuff to make sure that we are taking advantage of every abatement that we could,
Okay.
from state law. So we can certainly add that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that answer. I have just a quick comment to Councilor Sheridan's request. I feel like that the historic district might come out of the master plan.
Okay.
I'm
Right.
in that subcommittee.
Great point.
And that is definitely something that we've discussed
Right.
with Vicki Earls.
Yep.
It's very important. So that will get in the next 10-year goal, I think.
Excellent.
It will probably take that long.
Excellent. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I agree about the Franklin for All. There's still recommendations there that I would like to see. My number one thing is the mixed use by right and commercial one. I really think that we need to go through that. One of the things we're talking about in the master plan is to become a right to farm community. I'm not sure if that's going to make it through or not, but I think that's really important to a lot of people on the Agriculture Commission, a lot of small homestead farmers as well. When Brutus was here, when we spoke about the snow removal bylaw, we did mention that we have many more sidewalks than we had before when he created the priority list, and I didn't know if that was something that we could help the staff go through, or if that was something that we should put on our list as well. See, we're just gonna add stuff. One other thing is that I've been asked a couple of times about the Chestnut Street, Pleasant Street redesign and study? Is there anything that the town needs to do for that? Or do?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, that
Or is that like
intersection.
on a long-term thing?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we just need to find a, 10 or $15 million to build it and the staff and time to do it. We have done an analysis on that intersection.
Okay.
We have not designed it, but the analysis clearly shows a roundabout is the successful way to redesign that. Representative Roy did get us an appropriation in a transportation bond bill for that project.
Right.
Which is a pretty big lobbying effort for us to put forth to the state. Recently, I believe Amy did all the research on those projects. So it's on our radar. But like Grove Street, that rebuild, I mean,
Yeah.
it kind of just takes,
Takes
a
time.
solid 4 to 8 years to get the financing, design, construction, and all of that redone. to do
Right,
that.
okay. I just don't want us to forget about it.
We have not forgot
It's not
about
like
King
you're gonna
Street and
forget about it.
Chestnut. We have not forgot
I
about a
know.
lot of the
I know.
intersections. I think just we don't forget about them, but,
I know, you know what I mean.
I do.
I know you don't.
You know what I mean.
I
We
know
both
what you mean.
each other.
You have the, general government, there's a, where is it? I think it's the general government, it's the public art display policy. I was wondering if we could, bless you, we could make that a, not just display, but donation policy as well. Because I think we already have one written,
We have a donation one?
yeah.
Okay. Sure. I mean,
Good.
I don't know
It's
where we're
already
gonna put
done.
it all, but.
Let's put it on there anyways,
Yeah.
but that, I mean, that's a lot of things, like, a lot of people want to donate something to the town and have it put somewhere, and we created a policy for that, so.
Well, through you, Mr. Chairman, I think when you decide on if, where, and how where you're gonna place any public art, what kind of art goes there
Right.
could be a donation, for sure.
Sure.
Okay.
It could be something new. So I think it's kind of like the substance of the public art display probably lends itself to that.
Right.
Right, well, sometimes display just means it's a loan,
Could be a loan.
but that's all, that's
Yeah.
all.
They're all like usually complicated, even the electrical boxes are there are agreements that go with them, there's responsibilities of the artist, I mean, there's usually,
Yeah.
a lot of thought and work throughs and all that.
Okay, I think that's all my questions so far.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hamblin. Councilor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the town administrator and yourself. The first thing I have listed here under the general government is to maybe add in a full-time grant writer. Mr. Chairman, to you, the
Yeah.
town administrator. Is that, we've had this discussion at the master plan level, we've had this at other meetings as well. In a sense, it's kind of one of those goals that if done right and done well, could almost be a self-funding type of entity. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've got quite a bit of feedback in regards to this, and because if there's, I've learned over the years how difficult it could be, both for yourself and Jeff and other people, how difficult it can be to write grants, but yet how important they are to many of the extra things that we try to get done in government. So this is just kind of one of the goals I'd like to add under general government.
I think in some cases, within the departments, there are people that have been given the task of doing the grant writing.
Right.
For those things, and I'm looking at the fire chief in the back of the room, and I know they have somebody that is always looking to see what grants are out there and what they can possibly apply for. So I think, some of that is being done by the department, within the department. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that's correct. We did an update at the last Finance Committee on grants. I think, Councilor Jones, in a lot of ways, your suggestion has, obviously a tremendous amount of merit.
course.
In the sense, I think if you paid somebody $100,000 a year to write grants and they make a $100,000 grant, then you've kind of paid for it in and of itself. I think the challenge is with a grant writer is the senior center already has their knowledge of grants within their world. Technology has knowledge of grants within their world, police, fire, DPW, et cetera. So I think the question would be is a grants writer then gonna take over the departmental efforts? Probably not. And then what grants are we trying to get, right? So if we're gonna fund a position at a high salary level, which a grants writer would be, what's the target? Like, in other words, to put it bluntly, I don't think I would wanna ask a grant writer to go write grants for the fire department. No. Like, that just doesn't make sense. Why would I have a grants writer? It's just, it actually is just a real big, it can be a real waste of time, because you have somebody that doesn't know the DPW world, but then is trying to work with Brutus or Doug, but Brutus and Doug and Derek would just go do the work. So I think we'd have to find an area of grants, maybe green communities, maybe an energy manager, some other things where we have a gap, and maybe fill that gap with somebody that was fulfilling with grants. The director of arts will obviously look for the cultural council grants and stuff like that. So we've tried to decentralize it, and if we centralize it, I think we have to ask ourselves, where are we gonna try to get those grants? And
I understand your logic, Jamie. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, through you, the town administrator. I understand your logic. I think that with much of the input that we're getting specifically through the master plan and what we could almost expect from the public in the upcoming couple of months as we put forth our public input at hearings, that there's going to be quite a few areas that aren't necessarily departmentalized, that kind of fall under
Sure.
like for instance, housing. That's a discussion that's always come up. Sustainability, green initiatives and other stuff like that aren't necessarily department specific. Not grants DPW, I'm sure, could kind of look into doing some of the grant writing towards some of the green initiatives, towards water and sewer and Concom and so forth. It's just that I think based on some of the discussions at the master plan, as well as some of the ideas that have come across our plate that may or may not make it into the master plan, they may be worthy of having somebody put their efforts towards these types of grants.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Mr. Chairman, I think this has come up a couple times, and I think maybe we have to maybe have a discussion on it. It's just, like, do we want to put the cart before the horse and prescribe what the master plan committee is going to do now based on discussions, or wait until the master plan is finally approved? Because you're basically here, the council will be setting the priorities for the master plan, I think. And I don't know how that would work.
Well, again, this is just, I'm looking at this as a goal, not
Well,
something that could be, not something that we necessarily have to do, but one of our goals that we may look into.
Okay, again, I don't want to get into specific discussions on individual goals at this point. Make your case for what you'd like to add as a goal.
Yep.
Then, after everybody's had an opportunity, then we'll kind of go back through and have a brief discussion as to, because if we start, already there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14 goals that we're talking about.
Right.
Maybe adding, well, what 14 do you want to cut? That are not as important. So these are the kinds of things. So if we could, in this first round, at least focus on what you'd like to see added that is not there currently.
So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to add establishing a charter, add a full-time grant writer for future.
Yeah, I got that.
Future things. Second, it wasn't listed here, I didn't see it, was established the Town Charter Review Commission or Committee.
Yeah.
And the other one was to potentially put forth a goal under either economic development or under general government to look into another, if it's feasible, affordable housing trust project. The last one that was done that I can recall was 15 Beaver Court over on, off of Beaver Street. It'd be nice if there was a possibility to get another project like that.
Jamie?
I trust Councilor Jones that he's right on Beaver. The trust just has its own autonomy, and their money is pretty much gone. So they've got money left for probably one more project, maybe. And I think the trust is probably going to try to preserve that for something that they see as a big bang for their buck. And I know that only from being a member of the board and going to the meetings. They haven't spent any additional money, and part of that is because of Franklin Ridge.
Because of what?
Franklin Ridge.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. I'm going to go right down the line. Councilor DeLorco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, I'll be honest with you, if we can get these done, be a hell of a 2 years. I'll tell you that right now. This is great. But obviously, housing, and I'm the one that always argues that affordable housing isn't affordable housing, it's middle-class housing, is it's too expensive. So I would like to try to do some kind of housing that's a little less, so these kids, you know, my own kids are in the same predicament that you guys are. So I would like to do something like that. The only other thing would be traffic in town. I get a lot of stuff in traffic. If we could talk about traffic at some point, you know, I don't know how to fix it, but if we could talk about it anyway, because I get a lot of that. But outside of that, you know, those would be the couple of
Okay.
things.
Thank you, Councilor DeLorco. Councilor Pellegri.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I'd like to first begin by saying, why did we change the name of this to work plan instead of goals? I don't particularly like work plan. I like goals, and if you have to look back on things, you're gonna look back on goals, not work plans. So why was this changed?
Because goals are finite, you either do it or you don't, but most of the projects that are on here cross multiple years. So you kind of don't accomplish a goal, and it looks like you didn't do a goal, even though you've made a lot of progress. But I am more than happy to switch these back to the goals. It was just a work plan, it's wordsmithing, but if people like goals, we can keep goals.
Personally, I like
Sure.
goals. I don't know how the
Okay.
rest of you feel, but that's what we've always used, is goals, and that's how, if you read through here, you'll see it in different places, they're still using the word goal too, so.
Okay.
I think that you've covered just about everything. I like the idea of public works with the development strategy to prioritize town infrastructure, the sidewalks. I think that's great, but I also think that we have to keep up with the sidewalks, not just build new sidewalks. We have to, and be able to fix what is broken. And the perfect example is still up by St. Mary's Church on those red brick sidewalks, crosswalks, I'm sorry. They're still not fixed, and they are a mess in places, and they're dangerous too. You know, to get your foot and your heel caught in that. And it's a little bit embarrassing, I know for myself anyway, because people have said something to me when I'm on my way to church and we're crossing there. Can't we fix these? And I said, yes, they're going to be fixed. It's been over a year now since I've asked, but let's keep that in mind for that when they develop a strategy to fix them. I like the idea of seeing to restore the cupola. Wasn't that on this year's goal that we didn't finish?
Through you,
Go
Mr.
ahead,
Chairman,
Jamie.
it's 2 years old.
Yeah.
We appropriated the money 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I have to tell everybody, it's just, we need a lot more people. We need a lot more staff. We need a lot more capacity. This is why the theme of this year's goals is to finish what we've started. I'm anxious about a lot of new things because I think the team is a little overwhelmed just with what's on the plate right now. And also there's a financial piece, not relative to the cupola, but just in general. You know, all these ideas are awesome. It's just gonna cost a lot of money we don't have. And so I think the community is gonna have to have a big discussion about how to finance those things. And even though the override is on here as a discussion topic, you know, people are gonna be blown away and surprised at how far their money will go when we discuss that. You know, I mean, you're talking about, for a mile of new sidewalk, you're talking about $1 million to $1.5 million, you know? And so when we're talking about infrastructure, that's why the goal's on here about infrastructure relative to cost. But the cupola has been financed, the money is there. Mike and Kevin just need the space and time to be able to go try to get it done. It's a complicated project that'll take some time, and we're hopeful to get it started this summer. So, you know, I'm just trying to list out
Yeah.
the projects that haven't been completed yet.
Okay. And I see here the evaluate the reuse of the Davis Thayer School by issuing a preliminary expression of interest, and that's already begun, has it not?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work to put it together. It's a much
Yes.
bigger project than we probably anticipated, but we have an internal working group that we're trying to get our arms around it, and we're modeling it after the Old Town Hall expression of interest uptown, so.
Okay. But that wasn't on our goals for last year.
No, last year was just to establish the
Establish
PT
the
committee.
The committee, right,
Yeah.
okay. And the Habitat for Humanities, I don't know where we stand with that right now. Nothing is being done up there.
Nope, because they are still working with Mass Historic to get a preservation agreement, which the council has to approve.
A
as
preservation?
A preservation restriction through Mass Historic,
Yeah,
the state,
It's required.
it's required.
explain that to me.
So if the council wants to keep the church, or the old South Church, and you want to keep the facade, if
Yeah.
part of the purchase and sale and the deed changing hands, we need to have a preservation restriction, and Mass Historic, the state agency, has to approve that. So we have to go through the state to get a historic preservation agreement.
Okay.
So that takes a long time,
So we're
especially
waiting
because
on
Mass Historic doesn't work in the office anymore, and you can't find them. I had to literally call Jeff Roy. They didn't get a call back for 3 months. I had to call Jeff Roy literally, who called them himself to, maybe James did it, but maybe Kobe did. But Jeff, at the time, somebody called them and had to get somebody to call them back, because they're not in the office anymore. So it took a couple months to get somebody on the phone. And as Mark knows, these are very complicated agreements, and all of you have to approve it.
Yeah, understood. They do come back to us, but this isn't on Habitat for Humanity. This is on the Mass Historical Commission,
Yeah.
is who's holding it up at this point.
And the longer we let it go like this, the worse the building is getting.
Dude,
You know,
that's
I went by
correct.
it yesterday, and I
Yep.
was just, I couldn't believe it, the deterioration of it.
Yep. I mean, they have 5 years to,
Habitat, they have 5 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Over here, establish a 250th anniversary committee. Glad you put that down, because we do have to start planning that long in advance. And lastly, I had just add down here, ad hoc, to review the charter. Glad
Yeah,
glad you
we've got
noticed
that.
that too, because it's something that we have to do.
Yep.
And I think that's about it for right now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Plegry. Councilor Chandler.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the town administrator, obviously A+ on this list. Thank you. You councilors brought up everything I actually had written down. Excellent job to you guys, too. Like Bobby said, we would feel great if we could get all this done. Just to go over a couple quick things. Everybody's on the housing, there's no doubt about that, and that's been a frustrating issue, and I appreciate that gentleman out there that spoke about it. The downtown, I mean, we've poured millions and millions into the downtown. It's gonna take a little bit to get me motivated to really start fighting for that again. And under general government, we had fund the master plan for Maple Hill and Schmidt's Farm, and we were all very excited about that open space. Everyone kicked butt on that. We were really excited, but that one word, fund, that just goes to show all these goals, we have to fund them. So there are gonna be some people, and some maybe lined out, but hopefully we all fight for the ones that we really feel are important. And lastly, it's taken me 5 years, but I understand how important zoning is. So I am gonna read even more into that, and hopefully I can add something to that conversation this year. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Chandler. Councilor Cormier Ledger.
Save the best for last.
Absolutely.
We did.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did have just a few comments. Overall, great list. It's nice to see aggressive goals. I particularly liked seeing in several places the collaboration with the school department and really trying to share resources, particularly with onboarding and succession planning and training. I can't stress enough how important that is when we see those gaps. A couple of things. I agree fully with Councilor Jones about grants. I do think there's a way that job description could be written where it could be for much larger scale grants, Jamie, than perhaps what departments are shooting towards. I think there's a way we could follow a nonprofit model and really look at that, whether it's 25,000 and up or 50,000 and up. I think department goals can be for some of the smaller low-hanging fruit, but that could be a discussion. I think there's some money out there that we're probably missing. On the housing discussion, I would like to see some more small, single-family housing, particularly 40B in town. I think if we're truly talking about trying to make housing affordable, then we have to look at making it within reach for people. And that is truly the only way that I know of, that is within our control. But that's going to require creating incentives for builders and land. But maybe it's something that we could certainly look at. Councilor Chandler mentioned the downtown. Again, I think that's going to take incentives. Instead of us pouring that money into downtown, we need to be thinking about how can we help our landlords downtown attract the businesses they need and have the financial incentives or tax breaks that they need to fix those buildings and get new tenants. We can pour all the money we want into downtown. It doesn't mean that any business is going to come. I was happy to see under general government, evaluate and discuss a flag policy. I do understand the complexities of that. I understand the legal challenges to that. So I would just simply add that in addition to creating a flag policy, perhaps we need to also look at proper and legal ways that we can recognize sub-communities within Franklin, particularly during Pride Month in June, like other towns are doing. There are ways that banners can be flown and things can be celebrated without having to infringe on flag policies. On the presentation, I see Franklin Ridge was mentioned here. It would be great. We have other town council approved policies where funds are particularly designated from overages to go to specific things. If we're going to chip away at Franklin Ridge and make that an actual thing, we keep saying we want it, we keep trying to get a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, wait for the state. I'll be dead and buried by the time that thing finally gets funded. So we just need to make that a goal. And if we have some overages, we need to have a policy and put it toward that fund to help that grow. And Councilor Pellegrini talked about the subject that I constantly bring up, which is the sidewalks. I'd like to see under our infrastructure plan, Brutus has talked about creating a sidewalk master plan. I know it's one of the things he's working on, but we should have that written and established as a goal, because we do need to start looking at the existing sidewalks in town and put a plan together to address them, not just creating new sidewalks, but addressing the ones we have and maybe prioritizing ones that are 30, 40, 50 years old. I mean, there is a way that we could create a 10-year plan and start showing residents that we're chipping away at that. And that was all I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Cormier-Ledger. Okay, I'm not going to add anything, as a lot of this, Jamie and I discussed as it was being put together, so I pretty much knew what was going to be here, and pretty much everything that I was looking for was there, maybe needs to be tweaked a little bit, but the basis of what I think we should be looking for the next couple of years is here in one way, shape, or form. You know, and I think we could quickly, before I do that, is there anybody in the audience that came up with an item that, or a goal that you think we should have that isn't here? Please, name and address. Remember, we're not here to discuss the goals. We're here to discuss what goals we want to discuss over the next 2 years. just so that, hold on, Max. Please, name and address.
Hi, David Rittenhouse, 24 Hunters Run, Franklin. I just wanted to say that there's an opportunity to expand upon the Green Communities funding with the Climate Leader Community status, and I think that would be something that could be maybe written into this as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Max, name and address, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maxwell Marangelo, 127 Central Park Terrace. First of all, I'd like to thank the council and the town administrator for putting the goal with regards to the fees and the community, the discount for low-income people. I really appreciate their listening and support of that. But first, I'd like to ask you a question. Who in this room has lived in Franklin all their life? There we go. Unfortunately for people, a good number of you, unfortunately for people my age, affordable housing is increasingly out of reach. I, in a cruel sense, was lucky. I have a disability that affects my ability to work, and I was able to secure subsidized housing. I love the Franklin community, and I'm grateful for the opportunity afforded to me to live here. But for other people my age, housing is unattainable. For 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds, they're simply priced out. So for young girls and boys who grew up here, after they go to college, they're unable to return and start a life here. So in 30, 40 years, when I ask, who has lived their whole life in Franklin? There won't be anyone left. Luckily, there's a solution already available to us. If we want to see another generation of lifelong Franklinites, it is imperative that the town council implements the recommendations of the Franklin for All study. It already exists. That way all of us can call Franklin home, regardless of whether we're 25 or 74. It's up to you tonight to ensure that lifelong Franklinites have a future for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. And again, thank you, Max, for those words, but in fact, it's already on the list.
No, Franklin for All is...
Franklin for All was on the list. Melanie Hamblin brought it up. Okay, so is there anyone else in the, yes, please, name and address.
Hi, my name is Ted McIntyre. I live at 34 Jefferson Road. And I just wanted to say that climate change is one of the biggest issues facing the town and the globe. In 2008, the state began the Green Communities Act, which Franklin took advantage of. Councilor Frangillo has suggested that we begin to work on the Climate Leadership Communities Program. I'm asking you to include the language that he's proposing to begin implementing the eligibility requirements to achieve Climate Leader Community status. So there's 6 criteria, relatively low cost, all of them. I hear the discussion about cost, relatively straightforward things to do. One of the more interesting ones is to adopt a new building code. The new building code encourages electric buildings, which are consistent with lower cost construction, lower cost to operate, cleaner and healthier environments. And by achieving that goal, we set the town up to be eligible for future grants. And I would suggest that the state has grants, and with the Inflation Reduction Act money coming, being a community, climate leader community would put us in good stance to get further grants. So I recommend that you follow Councilor Frangillo's advice and include that.
Thank you. Is there, please, name and address.
Just 3 minutes.
Okay.
Mark Minichelli, 31 Longfellow Drive in Franklin. As some of you know, this is my second time living in Franklin. I grew up here in Franklin on Park Road in a duplex, which my parents bought when they were married in 1957. My father was a product of Franklin High School, a veteran of both Army and Navy, where he was a Navy pilot during the Korean conflict. He then went on to teach math at Framingham South High School for the rest of his working career. My mother is also a product of Franklin schools and worked as a secretary in the Franklin school system for many years, both before and after having children. My parents bought a duplex in Franklin. Both of them had careers that I would describe as public servants. They worked in part for the good of the community. As with most public servants, they each could have made more money working in the private sector, but they chose their paths based on their own values and analysis. As a result, it was an easy decision for them to decide to buy an affordable duplex as they started their married life together. My brother and I benefited by living close to the downtown area of Franklin. We could walk to school from first grade through high school, attending Race School, Davis Thayer, the junior high school, the impressive Franklin High with Fieldhouse. We could walk downtown and buy our penny candy from Jimmy's. We walked through the Dean campus grounds and the Franklin Town Common. We rode our bikes to Fletcher Field and the town pool. When we were older, we walked to the train station to take train back and forth from college in Boston as needed. We enjoyed the benefits of downtown living while in a wonderful rural community. We thrived as a result of what Franklin offered us. I think it's a story worth repeating over and over again with new people benefiting from what Franklin has to offer. Fast forward to 2024. Tonight we discuss Town Council goals for the next 2 years. The MBTA Communities Act requires, among other things, that an MBTA community shall have at least one zoning district of reasonable size in which multifamily housing is permitted as of right and meets other criteria regarding density, distance from the rail station, and suitability for families with children. It's a starting point for building a more affordable, efficient, walkable community with benefits for local shops and businesses as well as for our climate. It gives people who contribute to our town, state, and country, like my parents, a place they can afford to live and to add strength and vibrancy of Franklin as a community. I support these forms of transit-oriented development in Franklin. I commend the town for recognizing accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, as a viable means for improving affordability in Franklin. I support the continuation of the use of ADUs in Franklin by allowing their use by right anywhere within the town, not only producing more affordable places to live, but also giving more Franklin homeowners the possibility of leveraging the value of their investment and enabling some to remain in their homes longer as a result. There are far too many initiatives I'd like to name and support, given my 3 minutes to speak. I urge the town council and administrator to follow the recommendations which Franklin for All worked so hard to produce. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And again, I appreciate your comments, Mark. I appreciate the time and effort that you put into those words, which is why I allowed you to continue, but that's already here. We've already added that to the list, or put it on the list to discuss, to add if it wasn't already on. What I'm looking for now is things that are not on this list, that the community thinks should be on this list. So with that, Mr. Feldman.
Is the climate stuff on the list?
Yes, it is.
Time's over.
About 5 times.
It is now.
Climate, green community, all of that is on the list. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, quick.
Sure.
Thanks.
I've allowed everybody to, you took the time to come here.
Yeah.
We'll take the time to listen.
Appreciate it. Make it quick. I'm Brett Feldman, 37 Meadowbrook Road. I want to just add support to Councilor Frangillo's and the other councilors' climate initiatives. When I was on the council 10 years ago, we helped to push the town to get into the initial Green Communities program. We had a great solar aggregation program. We got the town to undertake its municipal electricity aggregation, which has helped citizens save a lot of money on their bills and add renewable options. So I think just continuing these to show our leadership is great. It'll save the town on our energy costs. It'll save on infrastructure costs in the long run, making us more climate resilient. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Okay. Up, please.
May be able to guess, but since everyone else got to, I wanted to throw my support behind Councilor Cormier's suggestion of finding a way, when you do discuss a flag policy, to, even if you need to find an alternative way to do it, to show your support for the minority communities, not just LGBTQ, but those that do experience hate and harassment in Franklin that a lot of us don't actually see. The public doesn't always see it. And so if they can know that the government is behind them. If their city councilors, their town councilors are behind them, that will make a big difference to them and whether they want to stay in this town. So, thank you.
Thank you. You were not wrong. City, town, both work.
Literally.
No, very good.
Just a question.
No, not yet. Is there anyone else in the audience? Is there anyone out in Zoom land?
Yes, got one.
Amber.
Amber?
Hi, good evening, council. Sorry, you probably heard me earlier coughing my brains out. I'm really sick, which is why I'm not there in person. I am much like Jen. I wasn't going to speak because you were only asking for new business. But as we've discussed many, many times, the flag policy, mine is, I think, more of a question as well as support for it. When we talk about the planning for these, for the work, I know that it's work for the council as well as for, you know, the town admin and things like that, as well as forming committees and things. And I really want to throw my support behind the amount of people that I personally have spoken to that want to get involved and want to help make it easier. Jamie's constantly talking about, you know, the workload and the budget. And I know that there are groups in town that are ready to you know, pull up their boots and do the work. And I really thank you for putting this on your work plan because I know it is a huge effort. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Amber. Is there anyone else in Zoom land? I don't see anybody. Okay. Did you have something very quick?
Yes, sir. Just a quick question to the gentleman in the audience. Were you talking about in regards specifically, say, the specialized stretch code?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'd figured. The town, we adopted the stretch code, I believe, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, back in 2015?
17.
And the specialized stretch code is, I think, 15 or so communities within the state currently have that. Cambridge, Brighton, Watertown, et cetera, probably do. We don't currently have it. We haven't adopted that level.
That's part of the criteria.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, just for clarification. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Okay, I guess probably the most important thing that I want to make clear to everybody watching, everybody here this evening, and thank you for coming out this evening and being here. 99.9% of these goals require some sort of funding. We know the budget constraints that we're currently under and what we're looking at in the not-too-distant future. So in some cases, maybe we need to pull some money from here and move it over here. Those will be discussions that will need to be had during the building of the budget, which is upon us. So that will be coming shortly. So a lot of these items as to how much we're able to address that particular goal is going to depend on whether we have the finances to do it. And if there are other places to move money from one department to another department or one initiative to another initiative because this one's more important than that one. Those will be discussions that this council and decisions this council is going to need to make over the next few months. And these are not going to be easy decisions. And I can tell you right now, there isn't anyone sitting up here that's going to be a popular person through the budget process, because it is going to be very, very difficult. So with that said, I'd like to address some of the items that were brought up tonight. And I'd like to first kind of get rid of a few that I think we can get rid of, as long as I can get a consensus from the council. Historical district through the master plan, I think is the right place for that. Do I have consensus that that? Okay. From 17 down to 16. We're gaining, Jamie. The snow bylaw. When we passed that snow bylaw, we knew it was baby steps, and it was the first step. And we said, let's look and see how this goes, and then come back and tweak it if we need to tweak it. And so I think that's kind of a waiting situation. Let's go through a winter and see how it goes. Maybe we just need to get through this weekend, you know, based upon what they're telling us. Obviously, climate. Everybody has brought up climate and green initiatives, Jamie. Where do we fit that in?
Through Mr. Chairman, it's a great question. I think as Councilor Frangillo has alluded to many times before, I mean, Franklin is widely known as a leader on this issue. We've talked about the buildings.
And we want to continue to be.
We've talked about the buildings. Our buildings are in excellent shape. We've talked about our energy reduction plan. We've started to convert the fleet. I just think at some point we're not talking anymore. We've changed all the LED lights in every building. We've changed all the street lights. I mean, I could go on down the list, and I don't want to belabor all the points. And I just think that at some point, it's not us. We went through this last year. It's people out here, citizens, homes. It's cars. It's vehicles. It's a variety of other things to get to net zero. I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't fully know what the right goal is because I don't want to set us up for failure either. And I think part of it is actually being done by Energize Franklin, where we talked last year about, like, you know, so, you know, I'm fully on board with this issue. I'm not at all trying to blockade it. We are all a leader on this. Everyone in this room, just so people at home know, there's no opposition to the issue. It's about money and capacity, and then it's about what are we aiming to do? And is the government now going to go spend its time and resources knocking on doors saying you should change your house to solar, or you should buy an electric vehicle, or is it our responsibility to pull private homeowners together with grants, right, that are available through the state? I mean, I've done those on my own house, right? I've gotten Mass Save money back for conversions and mechanicals in my house. So I just think that at some point we do need a broader bandwidth, and I think someone mentioned it maybe on Zoom, might have been Amber, but that's why I like the grassroots. To some degree, what Brett did when he was a counselor was kind of take a program and got a lot of people in the community to go out and knock doors, and went and sold Solarize Mass, and so the program went out to people's house. It wasn't me, it wasn't Mike D'Angelo, it wasn't necessarily like the town staff that went and did that. It was actually citizens talking to other citizens. And I think that's why I've kind of put a little resistance a little bit on this issue, trying to kind of say, is the government going to do every single thing on this, or are citizens going to go out and talk to their peers in the community and work on these issues? So I'm open to all the ideas. I don't know anything about the climate leader status certification. I can look into that.
I guess that's kind of what I was looking at,
You know,
what Glenn was talking about, and what this gentleman, Mr. McIntyre, was talking about. Maybe that's a place we could start, but I want to give Councilor Frangillo an opportunity here because this was his second issue.
Yeah, so I put a lot of thought into, I knew that we wanted to just, that to me it wasn't sufficient to just say apply for the next round of green communities grant funding. And just as I was thinking about how we set our climate goals, the state launched a new program, essentially a Green Communities Plus, what they're calling the Climate Leader Community. And just as we did 10 years ago, this is a checklist of actions that you can take as a municipality to make you eligible for more money for the town. And so I don't think that the language that I have is, and begin implementing the eligibility requirements to achieve climate leader community status. not to finish the status, but to look at the 6 and start to what they include, and these are
What are they?
so these are 6 things. One is be a green community and get good standing. Go team, we're already there. And then
I want to forward this goal.
yeah. Create a municipal decarbonization roadmap. We're like pretty much there. This would just be about publishing, but we actually have a fairly decarbonized municipal operations.
Absolutely.
So that one's not too hard. Adopt a zero emission vehicle first policy. This one's pretty easy. It just says if a zero emission vehicle makes sense to buy, then we'll buy it.
We do.
Which we essentially do, and so we can. So we're already halfway there. And again, the key here is when we got green community status, we were like maybe 50% of towns had gotten it. So by the time we got in, the amount of money that was available to us is less, and so we're chasing after funds. But if we can be one of the first to get this new status, then we get more. The big one is. Was already mentioned is the specialized opt-in building code. That's going to have to be a discussion. I'm, again, not committing to doing all 6, but to me, we already know that most buildings are cheaper to build within the specialized opt-in, or at least make their money back within the first 5. This is within the first 5 years. That's a study produced by the state. So I think it's actually not going to be that bad. The other big one is have a local body, an energy committee. This is one that we've discussed, and again, the reason I put this is it allows us to have a conversation about is it worth funding a sustainability manager either through an override or through our budget, and starting to have someone that can organize a community and leverage the power of grassroots to accomplish these goals and make us eligible for more grants. So I listed 5. The last one is commit to eliminate on-site fossil fuel use by 2050 within municipal buildings. Again, I think we're pretty much already there. So it's really 6. We're mostly there on 4 of them, and it's about creating a sustainability committee and adopting a stronger building.
Why don't you restate what you had written, please?
So adding on to the bullet, apply for the next round of Green Communities grant funding, and begin implementing the eligibility requirements to achieve climate leader community status.
Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yes.
Perfect.
Add it.
Thumbs up.
Okay. Okay, that crossed a bunch off.
Not really.
Almost the whole audience is going to go home now. It's like, all right, we got our job.
Okay, how do we expand on the housing issue, Jamie? I know you and I talked about that briefly.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, there's a couple of issues here. So number one, I still feel the master plan committee needs to finish its work before we really truly, I know the Franklin for All study is not fulfilled. There was never a commitment that it was all going to get done. If the master plan committee feels as if there are goals that are unchecked, certainly you can put them on here, or the master plan can take them in. But we did kind of the lower hanging fruit first. 40R, by the way, was part of that. It is on this list, and we left, in working with Brian, we left MBTA communities in 40R, and in talking to Brian and Amy, that's your year right there. I mean, both of those are substantial projects, especially when you consider the appetite around Forge Park and the train station up there, where, and so the other one that got glossed over is monitor statewide housing bond bill and housing legislation relative to ADUs. So when people talk about money, well, that's partly your money. Okay, but the legislature hasn't even had a hearing on the bill yet. I think the Senate's going to take it up sometime this month. But I would not expect that passage until July 30th at about midnight, right before the legislature adjourns, and they'll pass it then. And then the administration is going to take months to lay out grant procedures on how you apply for that money. So I think housing, unless there's a specific action, and all I heard tonight about was the problem, which we respect, but I think unless there's an action item that is going to increase housing or funding for it, like Councilor Cormier-Ledger saying, like any excess money could go towards Franklin Ridge, I think what's here and what the master plan's doing on zoning probably fits what you can do on housing. The sobering reality, Mr. Chairman, which you know, Franklin Ridge is a $30 million project at best. Yep. We just laid the groundwork for 2.5 years. through strategic grant writing. And we got 4 million from the state. And that's gonna build the road and the sewer pump station to go up there. We're still 20 to 25 million in the hole. So I don't know how we can build more housing. Let me just be blunt. Municipalities should not be doing this. This is a complete and utter failure of the federal government and the state government to deal with this issue. And I'm sorry, like, it is very hard for a municipal government to like just go build housing. Franklin Ridge is a great example. Shovel ready, permit ready. You guys have all heard it a million times. I've spoken to Elizabeth Warren, I've spoken to Ed Markey, I've spoken to every secretary, Ed Augustus, you name it. Cities and towns should not be sitting here being the ones building. I think what's missing is the private sector has not been engaged by the state or somebody. Or maybe on housing, we go back and revisit things like inclusionary and lower the trigger on when you have to do inclusionary zoning. We did 10 units, so it's 1 out of 10, and then everybody who applied for housing right after the bylaw went and applied for 9-unit buildings. So we missed an opportunity possibly to get deeded affordable housing. We could reconsider things like that as well. But in terms of building it, and in terms of increasing the stock of housing, I'm open to anybody's ideas that are out there. But I just can't, like me and the trust and the housing authority, this is not what we do. The private sector builds housing, and how do we stimulate the private sector to do it where we don't have obstructionists showing up at every single meeting trying to block every housing project?
Right. And to that point, or to your earlier point, Jamie, during the budget process, to Councilor Cormier Ledger's issue with Franklin Ridge, if there's money, we would discuss that at budget time. And, you know, is it money that goes to Franklin Ridge? Is it, if there's, you know, $100,000, does it go to Franklin Ridge? Does it go to Franklin Schools? Does it go to DPW? Where does it go? Those are the tough decisions that we as a council are going to need to make, and we need to be thinking about it now. It is not too early to be thinking about these different options and these different issues that we have to deal with. Would we like to do that, Franklin Ridge? Absolutely. You know, as Jamie said, we've got $4 million into it already that we've been able to
Like
grant write
Yeah,
to get it done. So, so to Jamie's point, after hearing him describe the 40R, does it address, is there anything that anybody might want to expound on one of those? Councilor Frangillo.
Yeah, thank you. So here's what I fear. I just want to make sure that we as an Economic Development Committee who are thinking about this regularly and have continued and have put a lot of thought into this are not going to like come up with an idea or try to tackle something and then, you know, have it said, well, it's not on the goals. And so I just wanted, that's why, you know, if that's not going to happen, if we're able to address, then okay, you know, this is just a guiding. Where I would add just 4 words that might allow us to talk about is under the bullet, prioritize and or implement recommendations from the Housing Production Plan and Townwide Master Plan, just adding to that list the Franklin for All study. And that allows us, again, all we're saying is prioritize and implement. So that allows us to say, which of these do we want to tackle in what order?
I like that. Jamie?
Yeah, through you, Mr. I love it. Can absolutely do it. I guess I just have a question for the chair of the master plan. Are we considering, is the master plan engaging, or the rest of, are you, are the undone things on Franklin for All, is the master plan committee considering those, or is the master plan consider those like past tense? like they're already done, or they're not issues you're taking up? I just
No,
don't
they
know.
are issues that are being taken up by the housing.
Like shared parking
by the-
and these other
by the
ideas
housing
that were in
subcommittee.
there, they're being considered by the master plan committee?
Yes, Kobe, did Ken and the subcommittee of housing kind of bring up some of the Franklin for All issues?
Yeah, we're aware of Franklin for All and
Okay.
continue.
I think
to talk
that,
to
I
us.
think that's the perfect place for this, Kobe. Direct to the master plan group, because I think a lot of what we have on here is going to come out through the master plan. A lot of it's separate, and I get that, but I like adding the Franklin for All to that. I'm okay with that, so.
Totally work.
Jane, everybody else okay with that? Okay, so we'll put that wording in, and that'll help with that piece. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
You certainly can. Counselor Cormier Ledger.
Just because I know it came up, is it within our purview or scope of work to think about tax incentives that could help a developer in town that's thinking about a project?
Absolutely.
Well, I
But
just
remember-
wonder if that is something that, maybe it's a goal, maybe it's a long-term discussion, maybe it's, something, but I think if we as a body have that power to put that legislation for future consideration.
To a degree.
Okay.
Go ahead. Mark, I'd be
Depends what you
disappointed.
mean by tax incentives. Because there's very limited programs and ability. In general, as you perceive income taxes or broad-based taxes, the short answer is no. Nothing you can do about it. But as far as working with a developer for infrastructure, or other types of incentives, there are some programs in place, and we have districts and all already set up.
So
Through
Mark.
really quickly, you
Oh.
could do things like TIFs, you
Yeah,
know.
that's what,
But I will say, in my experience, it's pretty rare that a housing developer is gonna take a TIF.
yeah.
Unless you're in like a Westerly, right? Or a major complex, which a lot of people in Franklin are generally against. So or a mixed-use project like around Forge Park. If there were a developer around Forge Park, that would be an area where there could be a tax incentive. So 40R is also not directly a tax incentive, but it kind of works like that, to try to engage the builder. So there are some tools, Councilor Cormier Ledger, it's just not as simple as like we give $1,000, like a senior tax worker program where you just give $2,000 off somebody's taxes, right? I mean,
Right.
it's not as easy as that.
No, and I recognize that nothing's ever easy. It's municipal government, right? It's supposed to be hard. But I would like to think that if we want to make a truly affordable housing, we keep talking about it, but if we want to make it a reality, we know what the developers are up against. They're up against high cost of labor, high cost of materials, and high taxes that are keeping them, plus zoning, that are keeping them from doing these projects that communities need. So they're turning to building rental properties because that's where they can make money and it's easy. But if we want them to shift their focus to actually make some 40B deed specific affordable housing, which is different than low income housing, I'm just asking if that's within our purview as a legislative body to put something in place that a developer might say, oh, I can do that with this project instead of apartments and actually help Franklin. That was really, because it's come up so many times. That's the only reason I bring it up.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Okay. Just wanna, the charter review, that's here.
I gotta be honest about it. I think that's a very, very large project. I think you need to cut some other stuff off. I know it sounds easy, happy to do it, I'm not opposed to it, but just be ready for a large project. That's a separate committee.
Yeah,
You have two choices. You got the ad hoc, you can
Right.
do some tweaks, one by
And that-
one.
and that's
Or you do
where-
a commission and you lose all.
I'm not looking for a commission. I think, and certainly, and I brought this up 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I think the ad hoc piece, but even if we just get in here to establish the committee,
Sure.
it's a start.
If you wanted to knock one off, I would take the procedures manual, which we reviewed in the last session with the same 9 people. You know, but
Yeah,
who am I?
no,
That's true, same.
good point.
I wouldn't necessarily say from a time perspective it's the same substitute, but I will take
No.
his offer.
We'll take-
If you're going to stick that on, I will love to get rid of
Well,
it.
let's
I'll
take
any
that
one I
off.
can get.
Okay, the grant writer piece,
I mean, first of all, you're up against budget issues. I think you could probably fund it through federal money. I think there's probably a little bit of research that would be taking. I think someone mentioned earlier, I would say we've evaluated most federal legislation. You know, the reality is, I think Councilor Frangillo knows this too, like, we're not gonna be eligible for most of that money. That money is overwhelmingly gonna be poured into cities across the country. But federal money, I will say, the housing bond bill possibly, you know, I'm not against it at all. I just,
well, maybe it's something, you know, I think our departments have done a great job doing the grant writing within their departments, but maybe during the budget, it's a budget conversation as to if we want to throw some money towards, you know, the Green Initiative, throw that money into a department to expand maybe somebody on limited hours into more hours to help with the grant writing. So I think that's more of a budget issue, and as long as everybody's shaking their head, I think that's the way to go. Councilor
Mr. Chairman,
DeLuca.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for FYI, at MassPro, when they write, you know, for grants, like if they're gonna do it for vehicles and stuff, they come to me and I give them all the information and then they write it, or they basically write it. So it's gonna take a person with a lot of, I mean, I don't know how much money we can pay them to do fire, to do police, to do DPW. You know, I'm in the middle. I give them all the information and then my boss writes it up, but I mean, and then we give it to them and they just use that, so I don't know where it's gonna end up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I'd rather a targeted position to what the chair said.
Yeah.
If it's around sustainability, then get a grant writer to do sustainability. If it's about how, you know,
Yeah.
instead of getting mingled up in
With
every
the-
other
all the
department,
other
I'd-
stuff. Yeah.
I can see all the heads bobbing, so that
Yeah.
has to be agreed.
No, that's.
There you go. All right, good, Jamie. You all set, Bobby?
Yeah, I
Okay,
just wanted to
yeah.
say that's how we do it.
Sidewalks, we're close to bringing that plan to fruition, correct?
Brutus,
By
no.
fruition, getting the plan ready to be printed so that everybody can see it.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I got an email from Beta, who's doing our plan, that before the Christmas break, that they were a few weeks out. So we'll check in with Brutus. That presentation on here, by the way, develop a strategy. You know, Bruce has been working on a long-term PowerPoint. That'll probably be sometime in the next couple months about what those costs are gonna look like.
Okay.
So,
Because I think along with that plan,
And
along with that sidewalk plan and repair plan as well, as being part of it.
That's what it is.
I think along with that is the roundabout costs associated with repairing 10 yards of.
oh, you'll get the cost.
I know we will, but I just want to make sure that we do.
I was just saying, I think that, I know it's not exactly what Councilor Hammond was, I just think it's here.
Yeah.
We're trying to get at the cost of repairing the sidewalks.
Right.
And just to give a tip, the capital plan that'll be put out on Friday will include money for repairs of sidewalks, to at least be able to do some of the stuff. And I know Brutus will talk to, he's got a list of all the stuff he's done the last 10 years, so, you know,
Okay,
this is tough.
what am I missing? Go ahead, Councilor
Can I
Hamblin.
just like respond to what Jamie
You
said?
absolutely
Thank you,
can.
through the chair, to Jamie. Actually, what I meant was, when we discussed about the snow removal, Brutus had his the DPW has their priorities, right? And we discussed how many more, probably not miles, but many more square feet of sidewalk we have. So maybe we need
I
to
see.
look at the priority list to maybe change it
Sure,
or add things to his list, because.
I see.
Because there's new ones that we have,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what I meant,
Oh, okay.
Okay,
because he said that he would like to do it too, so,
I mean, we can put on here, develop a sidewalk master plan, because it
There
should
you
be
go.
done in a month, so,
yeah,
you know,
just
so-
like add that in there too.
Just add that on
everybody
there.
okay with that?
Yeah.
Be the first
You
one
okay
for you
with
to
that?
celebrate getting done.
There you go.
We call it pedestrian master plan and talk about things that might not be sidewalks as well.
I mean, the answer to Councilor Frangillo's question is ultimately in the Franklin Greenway, which is in the open space and recreational master plan. So
Right.
the Franklin Greenway is ultimately, to some degree, it's close to what you're talking about, a pedestrian master plan. And I agree with them, there should be a pedestrian master plan. I'm just jello-y right now, trying to figure out how to finance and do all of this. So that's probably a larger project, with pedestrian crossings, crosswalks, lights, the bike issue, right? But I'm open to, if you want to expand it to pedestrian, we can.
Or why don't we do the development of the sidewalk plan leading to development of a pedestrian plan? And that at least clarifies what we hope we can do, but opens the door. If we can do more, we have that opportunity.
Love it.
Okay.
Councilor Frangillo? He's
Thumbs up.
Okay, and the last thing that I see that we haven't discussed, but I think to a degree it's part of the master plan, is downtown Franklin.
Yeah, and Franklin for all, adding that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really,
Yeah.
if I may.
Sure.
We talked about a few different tools to address housing and economic revitalization. And what your mind goes to first is how we can fund directly. How do we pay for homes? How do we pay for tax incentives to get new businesses? How do we pay for road improvements? But most of what's going to decide how vibrant our downtown is, how many homes are built, is baked into our policies that say what can and cannot be developed. And even nerdier than that, it's baked into things like setbacks and dimensional requirements and lot coverages and parking minimums. And that's really what the Franklin for All conversation is about, is how do we continue to examine our underlying zoning to allow for improved housing diversity and economic revitalization.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Frangillo. Is there anything else that I've missed that was brought up? Okay, I think what I'd like to do now is, Jamie, do you have every?
I think so. I've got,
You were giving me
develop a
thumbs up
side-
every time I said add one.
I did.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I
He's like looking at me like he
I
was.
thought you wanted me to review them real quick, but,
No.
yep.
We're good.
I've
I
got the
think we're
grant
good.
writer
I
with
think
sustainability.
everybody knows what we gave
Sure.
an okay to.
Yep.
So at this point, what I'd like to do, first of all, is thank the town administrator and the administrative staff, department heads, everybody involved with helping to develop these goals and work plan for the council for the next 2 years. And as we all have seen tonight and have read, these are certainly aggressive. But I think we were, as I said before, we were aggressive 2 years ago, and that helped us get an awful lot accomplished in 2 years by being aggressive. And I think we can do the same thing again. So what I'd like to do now is entertain a motion to approve the amended goals and work plan presented and amended tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, councilors, one and all, for, I know a lot of thought and a lot of time went into doing this. What do you think?
That's the resolution.
Or did you have an actual resolution? Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. Read, the clerk will read the resolution as amended,
As
please.
amended. I'll note that here. As amended. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Resolution 24-01, adoption of the 2024-2025 Town Council Town Administration Work Plan and Goals. Whereas the Town Council, Town of Franklin recognizes the importance of setting goals for projects and initiatives on a biannual basis, wishes to formally adopt the 2024-2025 Town Council Town Administrator's Work Plan and Goals, a copy of which is attached here to as Exhibit 1. Now therefore be resolved that the Franklin Town Council hereby adopts the 2024-2025 Town Council and Town Administrator's Work Plan as adopted of the Town of Franklin, a copy of which is attached here to as Exhibit 1. Said adoption is effective until revised and revoked by resolution of Franklin Town Council. This resolution should become effective according to visions of the Town of Franklin Home Rule Charter.
Move resolution 24-01.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
Oh.
Yes, sir.
You gotta add some language that references that it's not in here.
As amended.
I wrote
As
as
amended.
amended.
Oh, you said as amended?
As amended.
Okay, you said as adopted.
That's exactly what I
when you read
said.
it, So I didn't have it in front of me.
All right,
Yeah.
as amended this evening. Any further discussion? Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on. Let's see, legislation for action. Bylaw Amendment 24-904, a bylaw to amend the code of the Town of Franklin at Chapter 82, Fees, Municipal Service. First reading, clerk will read the bylaw amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Bylaw Amendment 24-904, Chapter 82 Fees, Municipal Service, and the bylaw to amend the Code of the Town of Franklin. Chapter 82 Fees, Municipal Service. Be it enacted by the Franklin Town Council that the Chapter 82 of the Code of the Town of Franklin is amended at Section 82-6, Scheduled Service Fees, subsection F, Fire, by striking existing language and replacing set out below, as set out below. Subsection 82-6, Scheduled Service Fees for the Fire Department. The service fee, associated fee is the ambulance fees. The ALS base rate is being changed from $2,420 to $2,464. The ALS base rate 2 isn't changing. The BLS rate is changing from $1,619 to $1,694. The commercial care facility without transport rate is not changing. The mileage rate is changing from $38 to $39. And this bylaw amendment shall become effective on and after March 1st of 2024. First reading.
Move bylaw amendment 24-904 to a second reading.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Jamie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The fire chief graciously has sat here all night, doing a great job, recognizing that he's probably not on some of these goals because he's going to get one out of the way right now. But these are just some minor tweaks at the suggestion of our billing company to maintain where our rates are in the middle of the pack. And as I think we've said many times before, with the mutual aid calls really going way up from other towns tapping into us, these rates are critical to increase to make sure that we're recapturing that revenue from other communities that are tapping into our EMS services. So As Councilor Jones mentioned, not all of the rates are going up, but just a couple, the mileage by $1, and one of the ALS rates by about $44, and the BLS rate is going up about $75. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Cormier Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the town administrator, Jamie, are these rates, do they only affect those with insurance, or would this affect a person with private pay as well?
Everybody.
Good evening, through the chair, it affects everybody. Your insurance company picks up that, and then at that point, if someone doesn't have insurance, they go through a collections process.
So the individual, if they don't have insurance or insurance doesn't cover it, they would get a bill from us for this fee?
There is a process, there is also hardship letters that we offer through the vendor. That is a formula depending on how many members of the family versus annual income, and then there's also ways that they can work with the vendor for a payment plan if needed.
And I know in the past, Chief, you've done trainings out at some of the facilities in town to encourage residents not to call for certain services, correct? So because of the really drastic costs associated, right?
That's correct. We try to educate people that it's truly for true emergencies, but people have different definitions of that as well. So we recognize that's part of the business. It is what it is. Some people treat not such an emergency as a true emergency because it's a true emergency for them. So we do get the calls a lot of times for calls that aren't true emergencies, but that's everywhere. You can't get around that.
Okay, thank you.
Through you,
Jamie?
Mr. Chairman, the ambulance hardship, Councilor Cormier Ledger, that the chief spoke about is actually in our town code. It's in section 82 of the municipal fees bylaw as part of the community assistance program. So there is a provision in there for hardship, and it's in town bylaw.
Right.
Great, I just think it's important for people listening to know that there's, you know, if they can't afford this fee, there's a
There's an
path.
There's an avenue,
So,
yes.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I just got my bill.
No hardship there.
No hardship there.
That's why I had my wife
Your health's
drive
number
me.
one, right?
Yeah, I would have drove myself if I knew.
I'll tell it later. Anyway, seeing no further discussion, the vote will come on the motion to move bylaw amendment 24-904 to a second reading. Majority votes required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 24-02, acceptance of parcel A drainage lot on westerly side of Maple Street. Clerk will read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Resolution 24-02, acceptance of parcel A drainage lot on westerly side of Maple Street, whereas Franklin Holdings LLC is the title holder of record of unimproved parcel of land on westerly side of Maple Street described as parcel A drainage on a plan of land captioned the Maple Preserve, Franklin, Massachusetts, dated October 3rd, 2016, proposed by Bay Colony Group Incorporated, recorded at Norfolk County Registry of Deeds and Plan Book 663, page 51 to 53, containing 79,357 square feet, more or less, according to said plan. And whereas the Franklin Holdings LLC has convened and said unapproved parcel of land of the town of Franklin for nominal consideration for municipal purposes, including stormwater management, by deed dated December 7, 2023, a true copy of which is attached to as Exhibit 1. Now therefore be it ordered by the Franklin Town Council, acting on behalf of the town of Franklin, that the conveyance of the town of Franklin, the above described unapproved parcel of land, parcel A, containing 79,357 square feet, more or less, for municipal purposes, including stormwater management, is hereby accepted, and that an attest copy of this resolution should be recorded together with the original deed, a true copy of which is attached to as Exhibit 1 at the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds. This resolution should become effective according to the provisions of the town of Franklin Home Rule Charter.
Move resolution 24-02.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion? Anything to add, Jamie?
No, the resolution explains it all. It's just at the end of Lorinda Lane off of Maple Street, just so people have a geographical sense.
The end of
Lorinda?
Lorinda Lane.
Oh, Lorinda. I thought you said Linda. I said, there's no Linda.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, the vote will come on the motion to approve Resolution 24-02. A majority votes required. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Town Administrators Report.
Just want to make sure everybody's aware of the Prospect Street closure due to the replacement of a culvert down there. We're doing everything we can to fix that as quickly as possible, and make sure we can get the road back open. And just want to really thank everybody for their incredible patience and the DPW staff for taking care of that so quickly. Needed to be done, but we really appreciate everybody's patience. It can be very disruptive, just like when we had the power out a couple weeks ago. But everybody on the road's been really friendly and understanding about it, and so we're very grateful. So, and that's it. Happy New Year.
Jamie, on that, and I didn't look real close, but I know when I came by Prospect Street tonight, I noticed there's a sign across the street, across Washington Street, that I'm sure is telling the detour people to go left. But is there a sign as you go up Washington Street from Hillside Nurseries on? Is
Towards
there a
Rantham?
sign telling people turning right on Prospect that you can't get through?
I'd have to be honest with you, I don't know. I haven't been out there. I'd have to
Because
check with
it
Brutus.
would send you down Lake Street, and you'd go all the way into Bellingham.
Right.
So I just think there should be something there to at least identify.
I'm gonna guess there isn't a sign there.
Like I said,
I'm gonna take a wild guess that the neighborhood on Washington Street
let's
knows
put
there's
it
not a
this
sign
way,
there.
on my way home, if there is, it's gone.
Just knock it over, Tommy. They'll pick it up tomorrow.
No, but if you
Joanne.
could just check with
Joanne
Brutus.
could knock it over.
Okay, subcommittee reports. I don't believe any subcommittee met over the holidays.
Nope.
Nothing.
No.
Okay.
That master plan has a meeting.
Oh, Gatra, I'm sorry.
No,
That-
I had a question.
Sure, shoot.
About subcommittees. Are we
You're gonna
assuming?
get them in the next couple of days,
Good.
okay?
Well,
Just a quick master plan. Only 5 seconds.
5 seconds or
Yeah,
less, Councilor
5
Jones.
seconds or less. Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to announce that the Master Plan Committee has set the 2024 scheduled dates and has put on the calendar a tentative date for, I'm going to put my glasses back on, September 9th for a presentation, proposed presentation to the planning board, and September 18th to the town council. And
Thank you.
all-
Thank
all
you,
other-
Councilor.
All other main dates have been set. Subcommittees and public input will also be set.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Okay, future agenda items. Councilor Cormier Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I have is I have gotten a couple of complaints from residents at Spruce Pond about beavers. I don't know if, and they're claiming that they've reported it and been told it's an FDA issue, but if there is
Legalize.
some department somewhere that can look into the beaver problem at Spruce Pond that is apparently causing the secondary pond in back to not get proper water, that would be fantastic to the residents over there.
Thank you.
It's not the FDA, by the way.
I'm
sure
just,
you know that.
or EPA, FDA, one of the A's, they said that
The
they
DPW.
called and gotten nowhere, so.
The Board of Health
How
actually.
many acronyms?
You know, but whoever can take care of it would be great.
Thank you, Councilor Cormier Ledger. Councilor Chandler.
Nothing at this time.
Councilor Pellegrini.
No, nothing at this time.
Councilor Sheridan.
Nothing at this time.
Councilor Frangillo.
The one I was going to add would be subcommittee assignments, yeah, just so we can get started on that work.
Yep.
Yeah, the other one that came up, just to name it in a meeting, but I think it'll be more for Economic Development Council. I was made aware of the senior village overlay and just how expansive that is and how it might run contrary to a lot of the Franklin for All work. And so just, having EDC take a look at that.
Okay.
Reporting back.
Thank you. Councilor Hamblin.
Nothing at this time.
Councilor Jones.
Nothing at this time.
Councilor DeLarco.
Nothing at this time.
Councilor comments. Councilor Sheridan.
Just Happy New Year.
Councilor Frangillo.
Yeah, Happy New Year. I'll keep it that simple, yeah.
Love it. Counselor Hamblin.
Happy New Year. Let's get to work.
Counselor Cormier Ledger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can we please look into the pros and cons of keeping the Zoom meeting? Because that's now the second time that that's happened tonight, and I'm not sure if there's a real
We've-
benefit after COVID.
You know, every
to
time we
continuing
think
to have
we've.
these problems.
Yeah, well, every time we think we've solved the problem and something else.
So let's encourage people to come back in person.
Absolutely.
We just don't need them doing it.
Counselor Chandler.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Happy New Year, and I really feel good about these goals after tonight. Thank you, everybody. I think we're gonna get a lot done. That's what I said. Back to work, and
Back to work.
here we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Chandler. Counselor Pellegrini.
It's going to be a very busy year, but I think we're all ready for it.
We
So
are.
I look forward to it, and Happy New Year to all.
Thank you. Counselor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to say speedy recovery to my chairman for his new knee, and of course to Councilor DeLorco and his recovery as he's progressing along. 2024 is going to be a busy year for us, and I'm not going to say it's good or bad, but it's going to have its challenges.
Going to have its
Thank you.
challenges. Thank you, Counselor Jones. Counselor DeLorco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you can see, the chair and vice chair job is very, very, very.
Yes, they got beat up over
We
here.
get beat up left and right, you know what I mean? But no, Happy New Year, and I have to say, congratulations to sports at Franklin High. We won the Dalton Award again, I guess, it was it 5 years in a row?
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, so congratulations to them. Great job to the coaches and the staff, and thank everyone that worked hard on our goals, and let's get to work, people.
Okay, thank you, Counselor
I'm gonna
DeLorco.
stop.
Again, from the chair, I'd just like to apologize for what happened early on with the Zoom bump, totally inappropriate, of course. And again, we apologize for that. We do everything we can to prevent that kind of thing from happening. But secondly, Happy New Year to everybody. I think everybody has seen tonight, we have an awesome task ahead of us as we look forward, but they're all taking us in the direction that the community needs to be headed in. And to that, I thank my fellow councilors and town administrators for adopting these challenging goals and work plans. So, with that, we do have a need this evening. We have a need to go into executive session considering the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property because of an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, I so declare. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd motion that town council go in executive session for considering the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on negotiating position of the public board, and not to adjourn,
And the chair has so declared.
as the chair so declared.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion, roll call vote.
Cormier Ledger.
Yes.
Sheridan.
Yes.
Chandler.
Yes.
Frangillo.
Yes.
Pellegrini.
Yes.
Hamblin.
Yes.
Jones, yes. Vice Chair.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes.
9-0, sir.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for coming.
My ride, please wait for me.
Mr. Chairman, can we have a bio break?
Bio break.
Your Uber.
She says Uber, yeah.